in to another edition of the post-game press conference, previously on riotradio.ca, hopefully there again soon, but now on YouTube, Spotify, and even our own website, where you can find every single piece of sports content myself and my co-host do. I'm Ryan Pigeau, of course, alongside Jon Lodge again, and this program's all about breaking down the advancements in the sports world. We've got the NHL and the major leagues at the forefront of everything, but of course the NBA and the NFL are always big topics to get into. We're poised to deliver hot takes on what's that? All of it.
All of it. Yeah.
Same as last. So we're getting caught up to speed on a couple of things. Obviously, number one in our lives, training camps are over and exhibition games begin this afternoon. Penguins and Flyers started at 4 p.m. I haven't tuned into the final score there, but it was 2-1 when I was watching for Philadelphia. So that's big. And then, John, we're excited for the Leafs-Habs game at 8 p.m., only an hour away now as we start recording the podcast. We'll talk about the John Chyka news. And then back over to the MLB, that Jays opening series against Tampa Bay was interesting. Unfortunately, Ken Giles is on the shelf indefinitely, but we also learned Buffalo is going to be called home. So we have a lot of different things to talk about in the MLB and the NHL, like I said at the top. And then we've got that weird Lou Williams story. I want to get your take on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I definitely got a couple things to say about Lou Williams and about the NBA. If we're going to focus mainly on the NHL and the MLB, why don't we hit off that right off the top? Because big news, Zion Williamson is back inside the bubble. He has made it back in. He will be back with the Pelicans for 2 practices before the first regular season game of the last 8 games that they're going to be pushing for that final playoff spot. So that was a big question we had thrown back and forth whether he was going to make it back, and it seems that he has, unlike the aforementioned Lou Williams.
Well, yeah, he's going to be going through a 10-day quarantine. We'll get into that in a second, but it's good news for Zion and the Pelicans and anybody who's a big fan of just the return to play for the NBA. We discussed how they've kind of shaped this to involve Zion, and it was a bit of a scare there whether he was going to be present. And like you highlighted, if he misses even any of those 8 games, could be an issue. It could be a problem for the Pelicans. So he's going to be there on time for the return to play to start. He shouldn't miss any games. And do you think he's going to be as impactful as everybody's ready for? I can't see any reason why not. He's a machine.
I expect him to be as good as he was before. But what's going to be better is the Lonzo Balls. Oh my Lord, why am I forgetting his the people he plays with? The entire running cast that was traded from Los Angeles over to I believe Kuzma, and there was another one. For some reason, his name is escaping me. But all 3 of them, they're healthy. Right. So it's Zion and a group of other guys. Right. It's not just him doing it on his own. So the Pelicans do have a really good shot at making the playoffs this year. But they've got a lot of work to do being down a few games here. So they're going to have to basically win out, I think.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching Zion, right? Because, again, it was a bit of a scare. We weren't sure what was going to happen. If we look locally, there was a bit of a scare this week, too, with VanVleet. He should be okay, but can you tell me a little bit about what happened on Sunday? I guess he left practice or this exhibition scrimmage, whatever you want to call it, landing on the knee kind of funny and had a bit of a limp, eh?
Yeah. First things first, Brandon Ingram. I have to correct myself. It was Brandon Ingram that I was talking about with the Pelicans.
Okay.
Get that off my brain, so I'm not thinking through all this. But VanVleet. Well, basically what happened was, from what I can tell, is he was jogging backwards, his leg locked up, and people were saying that it hyperextended and popped out, and that they were worried that he was going to be gone.
Yeah.
But it's just a little banged up. It was probably just a little. The ligaments were loose and sore. Right. So he needed to, or maybe too loose or something, something was wrong in there. So he just needs some rest. Right. And so there's nothing to really worry about with VanVleet right now. Raptors looking good in their tune-up games. They did have their first loss today, though. I believe it was Phoenix. Yeah, they lost to Phoenix by about 10. Okay. Still look good in the game. Once again, it's the complementary pieces that I'm focusing on in these tune-up games. Matt Thomas for the Raptors. He was 4 for 7. From 3, and TD2, sorry, was also 4 for 6, I believe, from 3. So
let's go.
You get 8 3-pointers from your third guard and your third string shooting forward or whatever. Then you're doing pretty good there. This is what they were expecting out of Thomas in the beginning of the season. He over from Europe. He was shooting the lights out over there, so they were expecting him to do that for the Raptors. And it seems now we'll see once the temperature gets turned up. We'll see see once the intensity is on, if he can still do it. But it seems that he's kind of he's hit his groove right now.
You know who stood out to me was Serge Ibaka. A couple of highlights with him, man. Getting a little aggressive in
Woo!
people's faces, putting up some points. And Serge is looking feisty and ready to go for the return to play. I was excited about seeing that.
Man, could you imagine? I had a note for last week's pod about the Raptors jumbo lineup, and they didn't play it very much due to injury. But could you imagine a big lineup with just Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, both rejuvenated, both in the
Ooh.
probably the best shape they've been in and I would say a half decade, and playing at as high a clip as either has played at. These guys are thirsty for that second title. They want to defend it, and I think that the Raptors have a good shot.
Well, again, it's exciting. Let's get back over to that Lou Williams story because we don't want to run out of the important news at the forefront here is MLB and NHL, but we're clearing this out of the way before we get deep down. Lou Williams is serving a 10-day quarantine after being squealed on for visiting a strip club for wings, John. Is that correct? He's got this kind of wing named after him in this hometown strip club, and he just couldn't help himself. He was visiting home for, I guess, what's being said as a funeral or some sort of family emergency that he had to attend to. But this anonymous tip line seems to have gotten him into some trouble, and now he's going to have to sit through a quarantine. What's going on from your perspective here?
Just complete and utter craziness. Like this guy has a complete lack of impulse control here. Like I don't understand what's going on. Of all places and of all excuses, first things first, you're going to a strip club of all places in a pandemic, and two, you try to use the excuse that it was for food and you were only in there for a couple of minutes. Come on, dude. Every man has made that excuse to any woman any girlfriend, wife, whatever, when they get caught for going to the strip club. I was only going there for the wings and I was only in there for 5 minutes. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And it wasn't quite that he got squealed on. There was a rapper, a buddy of his, that
Right.
he tweeted with him in it that he was there. And I was like, another thing. Like, really, like, you got to have a little bit of tact. I guess you're not friends with Lou Williams no more, this rapper. If I'm Lou, like, nah, dude, I can't be hanging out with you no more. I don't care. This is like, you totally outed me to my entire team, not just my entire team, but the entire world. This strip club's got to be something though, Ryan, because there's something coming out now that the Miami Marlins players decided to go out and have a good time when they were in Atlanta.
Is it being insinuated that they were
And
also at a strip club, or what's going
the
on with
very
that?
same strip club.
No way.
The very same strip club. Bob Nightingale has reported that the Miami Marlins, when they were in Atlanta, decided to go out and have a good time at the very same strip club. So,
All right. Well, hey, man, like that's the next. Let's segue right into it. The MLB is really facing an issue now. We don't want to get into a whole "I told you so," but we only recorded a podcast like 5 days ago, on the eve of opening day when Juan Soto had tested positive, and we kind of sat there and thought to ourselves, well, we got teams that have been around players who, 48 hours after having met with these teammates are testing positive for COVID. What's going to happen next? The next time we get together, are we going to see some sort of an obstacle here that Major League Baseball is facing? And it's the Marlins. It ends up being a totally different team. It's not the Nationals, but it's the Marlins who seem to be at the forefront of all of it. So, hey, if there's some sort of report coming out that they've all visited the same strip club, then I'd like to get an investigation going on. What's going on at this strip club? Why do all these professional athletes or sports teams have to, risk all of it here in the midst of trying to get back into the sports world here? We're trying to get things reignited and carefully, as such. So it's it baffles me that there could even be a tie, two different sports leagues altogether, the NBA and the MLB. Not to say they don't hang out, but my goodness, John, like what worries me is you've got Montoyo coming out voicing his concerns today, right? We're acknowledging the upcoming series with the Phillies, who are also isolating. Their series with the Yankees got postponed as well this weekend because they played against the Nationals on opening day. So like it's all starting to kind of roll into itself, a big snowball. I'm worried about what's going to happen next. But again, there's a lot to unpack here and digest. What are your thoughts on a lot of this?
Well, it's got to be the wing sauce, right? It's got to be the wings.
I knew you were going to come back with something nuts.
It's got to be the wings. That's what it is. That's everybody's got to have the best wings in town, and it just so happens to be at a strip club. And you can't blame them if that's the truth. Then that is ingenious marketing by the owner of that strip club, because that is not what you would expect them to be going there for. But
it's
moving
never going
on,
out of business. It's never going out of business. That place is going to be world renowned for forever.
Man, tourist attraction from here on out.
Yeah.
For every NBA
Big
fan,
sports geeks.
yeah, they're going to be going. They got to try those wings, man. So it's great publicity for them. They're just laughing it up over there in Atlanta. In regards to the Marlins, man, epidemiologists have said this is the textbook outbreak. Right, it started with 4, then it was 9, then 14, now 19. And it's getting bigger and bigger, and you have to shut the entire team down. I mean, aside from them being morons and going out and having a good time, I can't believe I'm saying this. I hope someone actually gets sick on the Marlins, like actually sick, not dies, doesn't end up detrimentally hurt, but actually sick,
right,
so that somebody learns a damn lesson here. Because how idiotic can you be to go out in a pandemic? You're not only risking the lives of your teammates, your coaches, the equipment staff, you're risking the lives of the people on the airplanes that you're transporting on. You're risking the lives of the hotel staff. You're risking the lives of the restaurant staff. You're risking the lives of the other teammates and your friends in this fraternity that you call baseball. It is so stupid. Something needs to happen. There needs to be some sort of consequence. And outside of the game of baseball, somebody needs to learn a lesson here. And I hope it gets learned. I really do. The Marlins are going to get shut down now until Sunday. The Yankees are affected, like you said. The Orioles are affected. The Phillies are affected. The Blue Jays don't want to go to Philadelphia. Home opener in Buffalo.
It's supposed to be Philadelphia.
No, it's supposed to be Miami.
Correct.
In Buffalo.
All these teams are mixed up.
We're supposed to go to Philly next, and we're going to host 2 home games. I don't know if that's going to happen. And then we're supposed to host Miami and Buffalo. I don't see how this is going to get fixed. I don't think that you can just take a team out of the league, because then the competitive advantage is gone, especially a team that won 2 games of 2 of the first 3 games. Right. So you can't say that you're taking a lower team out of the league, really.
No.
So it's going to be interesting to see where baseball goes from here. But one thing baseball has done is become a cautionary tale for the NFL. And we'll get into that later, but it has definitely become a cautionary tale.
That's the one thing, because they haven't set up some sort of a bubble. And again, Manfred came out and explained why they essentially don't believe a bubble is possible and never thought it was possible in the MLB. But because of that, because they never made any effort to try to isolate this issue, they're like, you've got guys who, like you said, are kind of flying by the seat of their pants, kind of putting everybody at risk because they're not taking it seriously enough. Well, you've got the NBA and the NHL both boasting, again, I'll say, whether it's accurate or not, about as they enter phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of their plan, they've got no positive COVID tests. They've got everything. Although they're warning it's not going to work out perfectly, there's going to be hitches, chinks in the armor, these types of things. Eventually, we're going to have a return to play, and we're seeing that happen tonight, this coming week. But in the end, in the NHL, because those 2 leagues were able to actually make a plan, create a bubble type scenario, and isolate COVID, they're able to actually get on with it without that moral compass tugging at the back of your mind, thinking, why are these guys even playing? That was when the Marlins issue got brought to my attention. It was an article I'd read. It was titled that, why are the Miami Marlins even playing baseball right now? And the next morning it all exploded, how there's all these guys essentially testing positive. And you're going, okay, if one team has to sit back, I guess that's okay. But you got to really wonder if you're going to return to play and then factor in all these possibilities. Like, you could lose teams, you have to rejig the whole scenario when you actually get to the end of your season. I don't understand why it even makes sense to return to play. And then you think, okay, money is the only reason they decided to try this. But so far, it's gone off so terribly. It's made the leagues look so bad. I just wish it was working out. I wish they'd thought ahead of time and maybe tried to designate bubble geographical destinations. I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm so scatterbrained on this topic. But in the end, you really have to think, if they'd just tried to isolate areas and not just say, okay, all 30 teams get to just fly freely about the continent, right? If they just maybe tried to create small locations. I understand it's difficult, but I've seen places where there's multiple ballparks in one area. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, actually, Arizona was the place where they had talked about doing a bubble, but they couldn't sell it to the PA. So
That was
I
such a
guess
long train of thought. I'm
you
sorry,
could
but
no, that's okay. You could blame that on the PA, really. I mean, the MLB did have a bubble plan originally. Now Arizona had a massive outbreak as well, but
yeah.
nowhere near as bad as Florida. And there's a bubble in Florida that is successful. So the bubble plan does work. I mean, it's so crazy to think that MLB abandoned the idea so quickly. When I heard this week that the NBA is looking at a bubble for next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they can't. They want to make sure that they have a season, and if that's the case, then they're fully willing to do this whole bubble thing all over again. So we might be seeing 2 years of NBA bubble life now. That'll be interesting to see a full season in the NBA in a bubble. How will they work that? Will the families be brought in? So on and so forth. But if this is the way we're looking at it, if this is the way the sports has to be until we have a vaccine readily available, a safe vaccine readily available for everybody, then so be it. This is what has to happen because, I understand that you want sports back and it brings a sense of normalcy, but you have to do it in a way where it doesn't detrimentally impact the average citizen.
Yeah, and like you said, they're taking all these. They're just throwing caution to the wind with all these different transportation and meals and all that. Like in the end, you want to see them actually put effort in with the MLB, where all the NHL and the NBA. Oh my gosh, all these alliterations. They essentially they have plans and they've taken the initiative. The NBA surprises me that they've gone a whole year ahead of time in thinking that. But and if they even go through with that, that's another story. But it just shows that those leagues are proactive. They're seeing the results and they understand how valuable that is to keep things running. Because look at how Dr. Fauci said today, like the types of things that are already coming out after just one weekend, like this MLB season is already looking like it's not going to happen. Like they tried it. I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to drop that take now. I don't think it's going to work. We could be 2 weeks away or 2 weeks out and go, yeah. Like there's 5 teams already that are out. Marlins, Phillies, Yankees, Nationals, all these teams we're talking about, Orioles, Jays. There you go. That's, you know what I mean? Why are we expanding to 16 teams when half of them can't even compete? It's starting to become ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't quite understand how baseball is going to get it done, but the thing that I can promise you is that they are going to push until it is impossible to push anymore. It's not going to be a quick thing for this, and that's going to be bad. I fully understand the optics of that if the outbreak continues the way it has, but I fully believe that MLB, that Rob Manfred's job is on the line, and if Rob Manfred says, sorry, we can't have a season and loses that much money, I think his track record has spoken for himself and the owners will be looking to replace him. That's just something that's been floating around recently. I don't know what the commissioner's decision will be. I think worst case we see a postponement and they have to postpone the playoffs as well. I think we see them, the KBO, I believe, had an outbreak when it was trying to start up originally. It was a small outbreak, but they had one and they shut the league down for 2 weeks. And then since they haven't shut down at all. Now the KBO is a small league of 6 to 9 teams, I believe,
Right.
but still, if you put that in the bubble mentality, the half a bubble mentality, or whatever you want to call this MLB half-baked theory, where you're only facing 9 teams, right? Or 6 to 9 teams, you're only facing your coast, then that could possibly work. I see the MLB trying that before they shut the doors and say the season's over. I say we have a postponement before a cancellation.
Well, that'll give me some hope. If you've seen that happen already in a league that's attempted to start up, run into an obstacle, been able to shut down, and been able to overcome said obstacle to regain, some control over it, then okay. But right now, the way that the MLB has Bush League approached this at each turn, like it's really not done them any good for their brand. And we talked about it last summer, how they can't help but get in their own way, whether it's juice balls or anything of that nature. They're just constantly getting in their own way, and that's why the brand stinks. Of the big four sports in North America, it is the worst brand.
Yeah, 100%. They're definitely in need of some overhaul there in the Major League Baseball head office. Before we get out of baseball, your boys, the Blue Jays.
Speaking of good brands, great
Yeah,
brands, because this is a
yeah,
good looking team lately.
yeah, man, they're looking good. They're looking good again tonight, 2-1. Another couple homers.
Hey, let's
Vladito with a
go.
blast,
Let's
and
go.
Lourdes with a blast as well. So that's nice. They're winning 2-1 against the Nationals, the defending champs.
Bichette and Grichuk are out tonight, correct?
Yeah, Grichuk had a back issue. So there was a play at the wall where he missed the ball. It bounced. It went over the wall for a grand rule double. He said that it wasn't on that play that he hurt himself. It was a couple plays, or maybe the inning before, he felt he tweaked something in his back. Nothing too serious. And with Bichette, it's a hamstring, right?
Yeah.
It's a hamstring pull.
Yep.
Could be a dehydration thing. You don't know. That could be 2 days. Could be 2 weeks. You never know. One thing's for sure, though, third base has definitely changed. Changed a lot after last night's game. If you saw what what Brendan Drury did on third base, it was just outstanding. He stole 2 double plays, 100% stole them. And the second one was just super impressive with a jumping grab and then a dart to first base to Vlad to get the double play. Just not something you see very often. So, yeah, Blue Jays playing great defense as well. Team's looking really good, and the pitching staff is looking up to par. We're going to get big Nate Pearson in on Wednesday. Tomorrow night.
Right. He's set to make that debut. And I wanted to talk to you about another pitcher, too. You had an interesting take because it was unfortunate the way things played out. Ken Giles, over the weekend in that series, has a bit of a forearm strain. He's clearly pitching through discomfort, right? To walk me through your thought process there and your take on it when Walker comes out to the mound and eventually leaves the mound with Giles still there. What's going through your head, and how do you like the result?
So I'm going to go a little bit before. So Giles gets 2 outs fairly easily, and then he's a little bit wild on his next batter. Not really wild, but just a little bit, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. What's going on?
Yeah.
He does this thing. Giles, he looks down, right, and it's almost like the camera caught his eyes for a second. And when you watch enough sports and you've seen enough injuries, players get a look in their eyes. Like, they know the inevitable, right? They know something's wrong, something's not right. So he continues this at bat, and this is the at bat. Walker comes out to the mound to check on him, and they keep him in there. And Pete Walker's excuse for that was Giles said he was good. That's bullshit, Ryan. That is absolute bullshit, because an athlete will always tell you they're good to go. You never it's like a child who's like, oh no, mom, I can have chocolate for dinner and I'm going to stay up and watch TV all night. Yeah, because the child knows best, right? An athlete in this situation is a child. The coach has to be the parent. The coach has to know better. He knew he was hurt, and they would have gotten as much time as they needed to warm up the next guy on an injury. There was no reason to keep him in there. He throws a couple more pitches, and he walks off the mound completely dejected, mouths the words, "I felt it pop." And in your elbow, you feel a pop. That's it, man. You want to call it a forearm strain or not, Charlie Montoyo's words were ominous enough for me to think Ken Giles is donezo for the year. MRI results will be back soon.
Yeah.
He's going to need Tommy John.
I read specifically from Montoyo, I don't want to speculate, but they're going to get a second opinion on the diagnosis of that forearm strain. That's so, like you said, it doesn't sound positive. And if only we'd been a little more careful and maybe, held back, kind of been more, like I said, not let a racehorse call the shots, because that's what happens with pro athletes, right? I like your analogy. It makes me think, like, the amount of times it's between lunch and dinner, and I'd like 2 chocolate bars, and it's I promise I'm going to eat my dinner. Like, it's true. Like, athletes are like little children in that way. So it's hard to kind of what's best for them as a pitching coach. But so from your perspective, I can see what you're saying. Like, just kind of the way it played out, didn't look like Giles did much talking there on the mound, and next thing you know, he's still in. So we'll see what's going on. What's up?
Unfortunately, it was already done. Right? Like, the damage was done. Once Pete Walker went out there, Ken Giles was having surgery. In my opinion, Giles knew there was something wrong. Okay. Now, he threw another couple pitches and completely did something that made it worse or whatnot. But, like, if they took him out and then he went out the next time, who's to say the first 100-mile-an-hour pitch he throws didn't snap that thing, right?
Yeah, that's true. We talked about two of the pitchers, or one of the pitchers already, Nate Pearson, right, set to join the rotation tomorrow. But what about some of the potential depth that they're showing in that in the actual bullpen rotation throughout the opening week here? I know they lost two in, I mean, what were they tied or leading in the eighth inning in those first two? Let's back up for a second. That opening series in Tampa Bay. I found this out this week too. 13 straight years they've dropped that first road series in there. So like that was a given, it was going to happen. But my point I'm trying to make here is, although they dropped two of those three games, it seems like they've got a little bit of depth in that bullpen. What's your take on that before we move on from the Jays?
Well, Tampa Bay has always been the Jays' bugaboo.
It's
like
gross.
they're
not even a good team, or rarely.
Well, I mean, rarely. It's funny because if you think in the last 15 years, the Tampa Bay Rays have been more successful than the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays had a couple of years in 2016, 2015, where they were successful and people thought they were going to have a run. But Tampa Bay, for their lack of fan base and whatnot, they have actually been successful. And I'd love to see a team like that go to a place like Montreal, where they'd actually have a real fan base. Anyway, moving on to the Blue Jays bullpen. It's interesting because a couple of the guys in there, they were starters last year. Sam Caviglio, Ryan Borucki. Now, whether
Borucki's looking good,
whether Borucki breaks the starting rotation or not, this is an interesting combination we can have now, because you can now use these guys and say you don't want Nate Pearson throwing 7 innings, 100 pitches. Right away. You want them throwing somewhere around 75 pitches a game, right? So you throw Nate Pearson out there for 3-4 innings, and then you bring out Borucki, or you bring out Sam Caviglio. Yeah. And I mean, I know Vig didn't look very good in his last outing and gave up the win to Tampa Bay, but he's definitely got a lot in the tank, and he's going to show it this year. I think the Blue Jays are looking really good, except for the fact of the back end of the bullpen, right? I mean, losing Ken Giles, that's really detrimental. Who's going to be the closer? Is it going to be Anthony Bass? It's definitely not going to be Urias, because he has some or not Urias, Dolis, sorry, I was looking at my DraftKings bet from last night, and I took Urias for the Dodgers. Dolis is definitely not going to be the closer for the Blue Jays, even though he was a closer over in the Korean League. He's got some control issues, so unless he can hone that in, I don't see him taking the ball to end the game. So that's really up in the air for the Blue Jays. Is the end of the bullpen, because before that it was going to be Dolis, Bass, Giles.
Yeah, that would have been a decent kind of combo to roll through. Jays are up, 3-1 now. I'm looking at top of the fifth here. And then, as I said, tomorrow I'm going to catch at 6 o'clock the Nate Pearson debut. That's a big one I want to catch, obviously. He looked good in that exhibition game, but the first real deal Holyfield game for Nate on the mound, I want to see him hit triple digits.
I don't know if I want to see that, man. I don't know. I mean, I understand that that's something he's been known for, but if
you like the stamina, I know.
Yeah, if he was a reliever, then yeah, I want to see triple digits, 3 out of 5 pitches. But as a starter, as a workhorse, if you can give me 97 all the time, I'll take 97 all the time, as opposed to 102, and then you hurt yourself.
100%. Let's move on to the NHL before we get out of here, man, because I think we got most of the MLB stuff taken care of. It's that phase 3 beginning. As of today, Penguins, Flyers.
Phase four.
Thank you, sir. Penguins, Flyers at Scotiabank. That was at 4 p.m. And then, again, the game we're getting excited for, the reason we got to wrap this up eventually, is Leafs Habs tonight. And I'm pumped. I got a couple of guys that I've got the spotlight on. We'll get into that in a minute. But, again, we talked about it earlier. The league announced 0 positive tests among over 4,000 that were administered in the final week of camp. So that was the 18th to the 25th. And everyone's in their respective bubble, and they're getting tested daily, right? So at this point, just like the NBA, we're hoping to get positive reports, daily, weekly, and if there is some sort of obstacle, I don't see them having a hard time getting over it, even if they do have to shut the bubble down for a week or two, because everyone's in one spot. They can keep an eye on everybody. Just as a quick sidetrack there. But do you have any big teams to watch here in this exhibition series, because we're still getting in the mix of things, but you got to keep in mind, this isn't like your normal exhibition preseason, right? These are all NHL rosters. You're not looking at guys trying to, make the squad, with the exception of Nick Robertson tonight. But what do you think? Is there a team that stands out to you that could really make a difference tonight and gain some steam heading into next week?
Well,
Or I guess tonight, tomorrow, or Thursday, and heading into next week?
Well, before I get into that, you brought up the Pens game that happened earlier, and I don't know if you've been on Twitter.
Wrapped up yet?
But I don't know if it's wrapped up. But I seen a tweet with a picture, and the Pens had a little bit of too many men on the ice. They had 10 skaters, 10 skaters on the ice at one
scratch
point.
what I said. Maybe it's going to be like preseason hockey. I don't know.
I don't know how you get 2 full lines out there, but that someone messed up, and that was a little bit of a hilarious moment on Twitter, seeing the Penguins with 10 skaters on the ice. But speaking of that game, they faced the Flyers, right?
Yes. Yeah,
I
stopped watching.
That's my team. That's my team is Philadelphia, because they were hot headed in to the stoppage, and they were I believe out of the playoffs possibly before Christmas. I can't quite remember, but I know they made a huge resurgence and came on real strong there, and now top 4 team. It's funny. Oh, it's a cop out. You're choosing a top 4 team as your team to watch, but of the top 8 teams, no one's going to say that the Flyers would be the team to watch.
No, they were, and like you said, they were friggin' hot heading into that final stretch. Just before COVID shut everything down, they were the talk of the town. There's some lyrics for you. Same with the Minnesota Wild, right? There's a team out of the West that you could look at and go, holy smokes. Again, it's just exhibition stuff these next couple of days, but you can tell how pumped we are to finally see some competitive hockey. I mean, I was watching those nice camera angles too down at Scotiabank. They kind of have that, it's like drone style angles where they're following the play a little bit differently. I guess with the crowd not being present, they can kind of get in angles that they're not used to getting. So I look forward to seeing a bit more of that too. But just actually seeing guys out there competing, not inter-team practice style scrimmages. We're talking like straight up exhibition games. I was getting pumped. Like Connor Sheary scored the first goal of the exhibition, you could call it here, and I'm sitting here going like, whoa, what a goal! Getting pumped up for a Pittsburgh Penguins goal. So it just tells you how long we've been waiting for this kind of stuff to come back. 8 o'clock is when the Leafs game's on, and I'm so pumped to see what Nick Robertson is going to do.
Yeah, Nick Robertson, Ilya Mikheyev. I'm pumped to see. I'm pumped to see the boys. I'm pumped to see the goaltending, because does Freddie play the full 60?
Don't talk about goaltending. I thought we were done talking about goaltending when COVID hit.
I don't know if Freddie plays the full 60 or not, and you know what? Freddie's got to play the full 60, man, because if he doesn't, and Soupy comes out and stands on his head for 2 periods, then that's going to be trouble.
That's why I think he needs to play 60 minutes, because again, right before this all hit, we just can't ever have nice things in this market, right? And all we ever bitch and complain about is goaltending and why Freddie can't make the important save. And then everybody was relying on Jack Campbell so much, like he was, the next coming of Carter Hart or anybody, just anybody, right? I'm just trying to think of a name, but essentially, like we latch on to the new name so quickly. We had guys almost forgetting what Freddie had done for the Leafs for 3 straight seasons, getting them into the playoffs, right? I was sick and tired of that argument. And if for whatever reason, what you just brought up happens tonight, where they are testing out both and one has a better performance than the other, and by God, if it's Jack Campbell, that whole can of worms will be opened right back up heading into next week. This
number 1 trend
series
in Canada.
Yeah.
It'll be the number 1 trend in Canada for sure.
Yeah, the 5-game series, and how important the first win is going to be, right? Because I even heard guys talking about even Pittsburgh and Montreal. If Montreal were to squeak out that first win in a 5-game series, thanks to Carey Price, and you're the Penguins, a favorited team in that series, and you're looking at yourself going, man, if we lose the next one, we're probably done. It is a bit of an interesting type of series compared to what we're used to seeing. So again, for me, I'm sitting here thinking like, geez, man, we got to get into this quick, and we better have no goaltending controversy, because if for whatever reason the fans or the team seems to not have the faith in Freddie that they once did and that they should have, oh my God, I would rather be back in COVID times than listening to that debate again.
Can we not talk about Montreal beating Pittsburgh anymore? I was talking
Okay,
about this earlier
that's
today,
fine.
and I swear to God, man, I have a feeling in my stomach. It's like when you after you eat McDonald's, that half an hour stomach ache
Oh
afterwards.
yeah, okay,
I
I'm
have
familiar.
that feeling in my stomach that if Pittsburgh loses, they're getting Alexis Lafreniere.
Right. I was
I
trying to give you the silver lining where I'm going to say, hey, at least Lafreniere doesn't end up in Montreal if they win, but you could
I'd
care
rather him
less.
there.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
rather him in Montreal. They can have him. I know what I'm saying. I cannot stand looking at Malkin, Crosby, Lafreniere on one lineup card. Honest to God, that you might as well just forfeit the Stanley Cup.
Well, I mean, they are kind of getting to the end of their window. I hate to say this to any Pittsburgh fan listening, but
What?
you've got a 31,
And
32-year-old Malkin, right? So, hey, they could use a young, energetic, generational style talent. Not to say he's going to be a generational talent, but he's he's one of the highly touted first overall picks. He's been guaranteed to be going first for a long time. That's how you can usually tell, right? But
yeah,
holy smokes, man, Pittsburgh could use that kind of guy when you've got Malkin and Crosby kind of hitting the evergreen years of their career, hitting the back nine.
Crosby's going to play at least 55 if he has Lafreniere on his team.
I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. Hey, those kind of guys, man, they don't always play together perfectly, right? Think about how Malkin and Crosby really don't play on the same line. So you never know. Maybe it's a
Yeah, but those are
throwing.
both centers. Those are
Oh,
both centers, and Lafreniere's a winger.
see, I want to see it now just so we can make an argument here. Who's going to be right? Let's get Lafreniere on the Penguins, eh? Why not?
No. I got my sister's a Penguins fan. I got a couple friends who are Penguins fans. I would never hear the end of it. I can't have that happening.
Arizona ownership didn't sugarcoat anything, did they?
No, a tale of two intellects. You have John Chyka and releasing his statement, and it was rainbows and fluff, and I'm going to take the high road. And then just before Chyka's statement, Arizona unleashed unholy hell on Chyka's head, calling him a quitter and a
I'm with you.
liar, and
Yeah.
just just the nastiest things you could say without saying, curse words or whatnot. You just dirtied them as much as they could in their statement. And I mean, I don't know exactly what happened here, but I can't blame the guy for wanting to get out of Arizona.
Why is it that I'm picturing, Ryan, the temp from The Office? Why am I picturing John Chyka as that type of guy? He's just like sucking up to all the CEOs and he figures out how to speak to management because that's what I read earlier today is Chyka is very sought after in a lot of different organizations, not even just sports. He's a very business savvy person and he speaks in a way like up to management that again, not every person in hockey is trained or has just the natural ability to speak in a management or business sense, right? So Chyka gets along, quote unquote, with management very well. And he supposedly was one of the reasons, one of the major factors that got the new owner in Arizona to come over and actually purchase the team. He's very good at getting people to listen, right? So I think of it as kind of funny. He just kind of rigged this and he got the owner to come over and purchase the Coyotes. For some reason or another, the Coyotes didn't want him to be approached by other organizations. There was an offer, like, they were trying to extend to him to say, hey, can we talk to your guy and maybe see what we can work out for a deal? And Arizona said no, from what I understand. This is all courtesy of Elliot Friedman. That's a tongue twister for some reason. But again, it seems as though the Arizona ownership really thought Chyka was on their side. They had just extended him to a 3-year deal. And then it sounds like Chyka up and just found something better. And that's the one thing I find like a little bit I don't want to say super sleazy, but again, he's done really well at getting people convinced, purchasing a team, getting really into the fold. And then he kind of turned around and took an offer that what Elliot Friedman says he couldn't turn down somewhere else. And they haven't even confirmed where Chyka has been hired or where he's looking to be hired. But doesn't this just have a sleazy kind of dirty business, what's going on behind the scenes angle to it? I don't know what to think anymore.
It's the American dream. It's a capitalist world, man. You can't get like I think it's hilarious that a millionaire, a dude who has definitely in his time dirtied someone one way or the other, or played in an underhanded way, or took advantage of a loophole in one way, more than one way or another, is getting upset that it got done to them. So it's just the way it works in business in
Yeah.
America. And
Yeah.
if the little guy can do it to the big guy, then I'm all for it, man.
Okay.
John Chyka, I guarantee you he wasn't making a lot of money. The guys in Overdrive said it anyway
Yeah.
yesterday. He was probably making like $47,000 a year,
Well,
being the general manager and
they're clearly on
president.
his side over there, are they not? Because
Yeah.
they didn't even really break that down too much. I'm thinking, is he really making that little money? In the end, it's got to be more than that, no? But I can see peanuts in comparison. I just think it's funny how, based on what everything Elliot Friedman said, is Chyka's really good at getting. He's the glue guy, right? He gets everybody together, and it seems like they were really swept off their feet that he could turn around and leave them, right? And you can see in their statement how offended they are. He quit on the team right before playoffs. It's not professional from their standpoint, but it sounds like Arizona could care less. They're happy to throw him under the bus, make him sound like he's not the team guy. Too funny. I love it. It's some drama, but it really doesn't need to be happening right now. The timing is awful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there was some sort of thing being worked out with Chyka and Arizona so that he would go to the bubble with them, but then they didn't want to let him leave or whatever. So he's just like, well, fine, I quit. So, I mean, I guess 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Chyka wasn't fully unwilling to go, and you want to sell him as a quitter, fine. He did actually quit, but it was an untenable situation, and I stand with the guy. Like, if he had a better job opportunity to go elsewhere, then why not go elsewhere? I believe that the rumor is New Jersey now. It was a team that has ownership, that has multiple sports organizations, and that's what he was going to be doing. He wouldn't just be running the hockey ops. He'd be
Right.
running all of the ops for all of their sports organizations. So it was between Buffalo and New Jersey, and they I don't know which NFL team they own, but the team that owns New Jersey also owns the 76ers.
Right.
So
Lou Lamoriello's invested in that in one way or another because that's the only reason I can even remember that. I was told
yeah.
that a long time ago, that Lamoriello basically owns a piece of every part of these organizations, and that's why he can get away with everything he does. So I remember that. But I will say it's just a weird, like, imagine the one job you've got is to try to win a Stanley Cup, right? You're the GM. You're actually the youngest GM in the history of the league. And right before your team, who actually is going into the bubble to compete to win a Stanley Cup, that's where the team, you can understand, they're like, what? Like, why wouldn't you at least stick around? Like, stick around and be part of this if we can, right? So I can imagine being in the footsteps of both parties going, why would you leave? And going, well, I've got a better opportunity. I hate how the timing has to be this way, but this is the way this is the way it's got to be, right?
Just look at the two rosters. Look at between New Jersey and Arizona. I understand Arizona's got a scrappy roster and they're going to the playoffs and they have a chance at the Stanley Cup. But if you look at Jersey, they've got first round picks. By the way, really funny that it's going to be Jersey and Hall went from Jersey to Arizona. Sidetrack. But yeah,
Interesting.
so they've got 2 first round picks skating on the ice for them now. And they've got a decent young goaltender. And if you're not just running the hockey operations, so now we're going to jump from hockey, we're going to jump over to basketball. If that's the 76ers, now you look at Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and that crew, and you got a chance to win an NBA championship, a Larry O'B, and then whatever NFL
Yeah.
organization dwarfs them both.
Yeah, the opportunities for
So
success outnumber one Arizona Coyotes organization for sure.
whether it's the chance to win this year or not, whether the Arizona Coyotes even go in as the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year, I think if you're looking for the future, I think if I'm John Chyka, I make the same decision.
Yeah, and again, it makes sense because like he's started an analytics company. He's owned Wendy's, and he's a huge businessman. He's not just the GM. He doesn't have a hockey mind. So you can understand where he's a lot more different than most GMs. You wouldn't think, you know, maybe Kyle Dubas is more in this light too, right? More of the classic traditional GMs like a Glenn Sather. Well, I don't think he'd be offered that type of position. I'm
No,
not trying to go super far out on a limb here and make a major take, but it's like these are more Moneyball type GMs, right? Guys who are more business and money management. They're not really completely, not to say they're not sports guys, but they're not even sports first and sports only guys. They're business and management guys. So you can understand where, like you said, with the amount of opportunities he's got at his fingertips, if he is going in that direction, um, sorry, but dude, the timing is means nothing to me. Where I've got doors and doors open here, so that you're starting to really put things into perspective for me here. I wasn't expecting to get that deep on it.
Yeah, the guys we're talking about, they're not, like you said, they're not just hockey guys. These are CEOs, COOs, CFOs. These are guys with business acumen. They've gone to Harvard, they've gone to Yale. They have serious degrees and they have serious aspirations. It's not just hockey. It's not just winning the Stanley Cup to them. That might even seem trivial to a guy like John Chyka.
Yeah.
It just a means to an end to make his career better. We don't know.
We do not know. All right, final points before we get out of here. It's just on the NFL, and it relates back to the MLB. And just what do you think they can learn from that return to play that has seemingly gone so awfully? I'm already going to add a point here. The CFL and the Canadian government are still working on like an NHL style bubble for their Winnipeg hub that was announced. I want to say it's over a month ago. The CFL is ahead of this. So what can the NFL learn from that MLB's return to play that's going to give me some hope in the next, what is it, 2 months before they start up?
They need a bubble. They need a bubble and they need one now. And my best option from my mindset is, and this is going to sound crazy, Los Angeles and Texas.
Okay. Why do you say that then?
For the West Coast, and maybe somewhere in New York for the East Coast, based on the location of stadiums. Right. So you'd be able to host games at, say, Gillette and at the name is escaping me, the Giants and Jet Stadium, MetLife.
Okay.
And on say, if you're in Los Angeles, you have the new stadium that's going up, and you've got the Rams current stadium. Right. So and also you've got Vegas there as well. So Vegas is just right around the corner from LA. So
Yeah.
you have three major NFL stadiums in one spot, two or three in another. And if you house the players in specific spots, then you could do it in a bubble mentality.
Yeah.
And you could do it where they say they play they play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You have 3 or 4 games a day on each coast, and that way you work through your workable. It's definitely doable, but it's something that has to be done. And like we said, it ties right into the MLB. MLB is the cautionary tale for the NFL right now, and I think they know that. They see that. It'll be interesting to see if they actually go the bubble technique or if they just decide to no season whatsoever. You're seeing a lot of players opt out. The New England Patriots had 6 so far opt out. So there's a lot going on in the NFL right now.
Wow. And again, kind of the solution that you've proposed there, the potential for a solution, it satisfies my craving that I like in the MLB, where I wish they had. I understand, Rob Manfred, how difficult it is to make a one hub city, but if you'd just kind of been more creative about your geographical location, if you've been more careful about getting people like the same way you've got Florida, how many teams practice their spring training down in Florida? Is it not a ton of teams? Like just similar to that, where there's tons of ballparks in one area. You've just kind of brought me right back to our MLB discussion. That type of solution in the NFL, if they can learn from the MLB, would be to do that. Designate some sort of geographical location that's tight, that you can house players. It might be a bit of a trip to get from one spot to another, but it's better than road tripping cross country all season long. Like, because we know that that's not gonna. You've got players that are going to get wings all season long, right, John? We talked about that earlier. If they don't do this and they don't learn from the way the NFL or NBA and NHL, God, let's deal with those alliterations one day, have done it, then it's never going to get sorted out. It's not going to be positive.
I'm all good with strippers and wings, okay? But you bring them into the bubble, make sure they test positive or not positive, negative, sorry. Make sure they test negative. You don't
Like
want
a
to test positive. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, just make sure everything's kosher, right? Put them up in the hotel for a week. The strippers know what they're there for. They're doing it you think they don't want to go there for a bunch of celebrities? Come on, just bring it into the bubble. Everyone knows what's up.
All right, get out of here, man. Enjoy the Leaf game. We're going to freaking get back together probably in the next couple of days because we got lots to talk about now. Sports are back. It pumps me up every time we get to talk about it, man.
Let's talk about baseball while we still have a chance. But yeah, always fun, man. I'm gonna go upstairs and turn the TV on and watch the Leaf game.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn around and pull my sheet back, and it's right there behind me. Nobody would know the difference. Take care, buddy. Peace,
man.
Have a good one.
You too.